As Holly said, my name is Rose. I work for a tech recruitment company in Dublin, Ireland called Nine Dots. I am also a feminist nerd. I found it difficult to think of things that I actually am into to use as an intro, but I like video games. I like technology. I've recently been getting into nail polish, which I suspect is going to drag me into a very deep rabbit hole where my finances will never recover. The company I joined, Nine Dots, we believe strongly that openness and transparency are hugely important to recruitment. I mean, they're important to everything, but recruitment suffers from a reputation of like secrecy and people don't tell you things. And so that's why I'm so happy to be able to do something like this. I mean, I genuinely don't care. I'll tell you anything as long as it's not violating NDAs. So tonight, what I'd like to speak about is how recruiters use LinkedIn, because I know we all get messages, we all or don't get messages, usually the one that you don't want to be happening. But I mean, what's going on my side? I hope that you don't think recruiters are sitting around at home all day thinking of ways to inconvenience you. Like, we have a job to do as well. I mean, what do recruiters do? They send you irrelevant messages, or they completely ignore your application, keep spamming you. We're really, really annoying. And I mean, that's what you think. That's what I thought about recruitment before I joined. Legitimately, I was looking for a job. I'd been out of work for about 2.5 years. I was spamming recruiters endlessly. No one ever got back to me. So I looked up, what does a recruiter do? So I could like be educated about being annoyed. I could be, point to something and go, here, it says here you're supposed to help me and you're not. And then I found out that that's not what recruiters do. And I also thought, that sounds fun. I could do that. So recruiters, I mean, first of all, we're people too. We care. I care a lot about my candidates. I get extremely emotionally invested, sometimes to my detriment. But I do have different priorities to the candidates. It's not personal. My job is to find a candidate for a job. So a client will come to me and say, I'm looking for this kind of staff person. Can you find me somebody? My job isn't to find you a job. If you come to me with your CV and I have something relevant, I'll try to help, but it's not my job to go out and beat on doors for you. And I have a lot of competing interests. I have you, the candidate, who wants a job that's nice and pays well. I have the client who wants the perfect staff member who doesn't ask for that much money, honestly. And then I have my own company. I have my boss saying, Rose, you've got targets for billing. You have to hit these. So there's kind of a lot going on. Recruiting is really about reputation and word of mouth. It's like any service industry. You remember the really bad experiences you have, and those are the ones you talk about. So we try to limit the bad experiences. People rarely come home from a restaurant and go, oh my God, the waiter was so awesome. But they will definitely come home and go, that waiter was terrible. It's just human nature. We don't rave on about the things that are good. We complain loudly about the things that are bad. So what I actually do, so I find candidates for jobs and I will take somebody through the whole process. I'll send a CV to an employer. I'll help you prep for your interview. I'll help you negotiate your job offer. Then we keep in touch afterwards just to make sure your new job is going well. I also advise both companies and people on market trends, interview structure, salaries, diversity and inclusion, anything that kind of impacts your day-to-day job or a company. We'll offer advice on, because if a company hires one person a year, they may not necessarily know what's changed since last year. So it's good to keep companies updated as well, So the recruitment process, what it looks like from our side. So we're starting from the left here. We get a new role on, I qualify it. So I'll talk to the client and I'll say, cool, I have the job spec, but there's always stuff going on that's secret on the job spec. The hiring manager has something in their head they haven't written down. You have to find out the vibe of the role. Like what's the vibe of the team? Yeah, if the team is pretty casual and pretty kind of open and loosey-goosey with the way they do things, the person who's heavily process driven will hate it there. They'll lose their mind. So it's things like that you need to find out. Then I'll source. That means I go for people. I screen, which means I talk to people and go, okay, here's the job. What do we think? Are you qualified? Send CVs to the client. Then I will liaise and facilitate interviews. As I mentioned, that involves prepping, but it also involves just, schedule juggling and other banal things like that. Then if we get to job offer, I'll help negotiation offer. Those can be in the other order, because sometimes a client will come back and say, what are they looking for? That's too much. Or they'll come back and say, we're offering so much. And then we go back and forth a bit. And the placement is somebody gets the job. Woo! And then I keep in touch. I make sure people are happy. If they don't get the job, I'll still keep in touch because I'll have something else, or maybe I could support in some other way. And, it's nice to stay in touch. In terms of how long all of this takes me to give you an idea of the amount of time that recruiters are putting into things. So qualifying the role probably doesn't take that long unless it's a brand new client. I'll spend a little bit of time on it. I'll start researching technologies maybe I don't know, or areas I'm not familiar with, so to make sure I understand what's going on. Sourcing is by far the largest amount of time, because you have to look at a lot of profiles and a lot of CVs to be able to find a small number of people that are good enough to message that will actually fit your job spec. Screening, yeah, that varies, because I'll probably try to spend 10, 15 minutes at least on a phone call with everyone I send forward. Some people just don't want to be on the phone, and that's fine. We do it by email. Sending CVs to the client, it doesn't take that long per CV, but I write a little bio on each person, highlighting their suitability for the job based on what I know of both of them. Interviewing, scheduling, that can kind of vary in time. Sometimes it's super easy, and sometimes you're spending like 3 days going back and forth, trying to juggle time zones and schedules and holidays, and trying to find like 5 minutes when everyone is available at the same time. This scheduling can be a fun time. The offer, if things go well, it's super quick. You just send over the job offer, they say yes, and you're good to go. Sometimes there's a lot of back and forth while you try to negotiate, and they've got other offers, and you have to try and say why yours is the best one and they should take it. And the same with negotiating. It's all kind of the same amount of time because it's the same block of work. And this is for one position. I'll have at least 6 to 10 positions open at any one time, each one requiring this process. And it can be more if we're really busy. It can be a lot more. At one stage last year, I had 24 positions open, so I have to do this with each one. So you can see that recruiters, our time is pretty limited. We have a lot to do, not a lot of time. So if things are dropping through the cracks, honestly, we're trying, but we have a lot on. The pay, how do we get paid? I get a base wage. It's not that high, and that's by design because my wages are supposed to come from commission. So if I get you a job, I get paid, and that's my motivation. People are lovely and I want them to be happy, but I have to pay my rent. So let's say I get you a job and your pay is 110,000 euros. The agency fee will be 15 to 20%. Ideally more to 20. We'd only do 15 if it was going to be a lot of positions with a company or positions that aren't that hard. 20% is usually where we go. Then, so the fee is say 20,000, decent. I get 2,000 of that, so I get 10%. So that's what I'm getting. I'm not going to place every position that I work on. I would get maybe 1 or 2 placements a month on average. Sometimes you get a boomer month and you get loads, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is I'm aiming to get around 2,000 to 4,000 euros extra per month in my wages, and that's before tax. But it's not guaranteed. The client sometimes just doesn't pay, like they just don't pay, even though they owe us. Rarely. Sometimes you spend months in a role and it still goes nowhere and it closes. There was a position I was working on recently and it was open for a long time. I put a lot of people in, none of them quite fit it. And then the whole company went into hiring freeze. Done. Sometimes you spend ages getting somebody to an offer and then the candidate says no. Obviously, that's their choice, but it is always devastating. And if the candidate leaves within a couple of months, our clawback period is between 3 and 6 months. Then we have to give the fee back. So it's within our interests that you get the job, but it's also within our interests that you like the job and you stay there. That's not just financial. Like, I do care that people really like their job, but realistically, if you leave within the first 6 months, I'm losing money. And usually at this stage, I've actually been paid the commission, so it gets what's called clawed back. So I actually have to give the money back from my own wages, which sucks. So you always need to have backup. You always have spare pipeline. If you're at final round for a job with a company and you're thinking, this is amazing, I'm definitely getting that job, and then you see the job ad go back up again, that's not personal. They're hedging their bets. If you reject the job, they want to make sure that they've got something to go back to. How do we find you? It's called recruitment. We call it sourcing. There's a couple of different kinds. There's direct sourcing, which is you get those messages on LinkedIn or wherever. There's community sourcing, which is kind of this. You go out into the community, you join groups, you make yourself known to people within your sector as a nice, approachable, sensible, sane person that people would want to talk to. I'm not sitting here saying, definitely send me all of your CVs and work. I am. But I'm just, hello, I'm a person. Network sourcing, that's people I've dealt with before. You know, everyone knows what networking is. It's the network. And then job adverts, we'll put up adverts. Everyone in my company, we've been on copywriting courses, especially for writing job adverts. So we do put a lot of work into our adverts. On LinkedIn, so there's a special recruiter license for LinkedIn. It's reasonably expensive, but on the other hand, if you make a couple of placements from it, then you've got your money back and it's fine. There's a lot of filters. I'll show you now in a few slides. There's a lot of ways I can filter down and points of information I can search for. We use what's called projects to keep track of candidates. That's really just a folder that I put people into, and then I can track where they are in the process and if they've replied and etc. The InMail that you get, that costs 1 InMail credit per message. We get like 150, 200 each per month, which sounds like a lot, but the industry average response rate is 21%. So out of every 100 messages I get, I can expect 21 back. And if you respond to a recruiter at all on LinkedIn with the InMail credits, they get that credit back. So if you're getting messages that are just so badly targeted that you just hate the person that sent it to you, don't reply at all, because if you click the I'm not interested button, that still gives them the InMail credit back. And you don't want to give them that in their stats. They don't deserve it. Very harsh. Sorry if you're a recruiter and you're watching this, but don't send terrible messages. So these are some of the filter options. I'll go through this pretty quickly because I'm doing a live demo next. But there's job title, your current company, where you are, what school you went to, what kind of job you might like, what kind of skills you have, lots of details about your education, how long you've been in your current company. There's military veterans, that only works for the US. What companies you've worked in, what company sizes, what job you've had. Basically anything you can think of, we can track by it. What languages you speak, your name. That doesn't work super well outside of the US because of how international, how countries work. And then there's a bunch of stuff that is kind of internal. I can search by people who've previously applied to open jobs, or I can search for people that people in my company have previously spoken to. And we search using Boolean logic, which is basically using and or operators. I can go, I want to have both chips and beans, or I want to have beans or chips. And we can filter down using that. So you could say, I want a burger that has either cheese or bacon, but I don't want to see tomato or beetroot. Or you could, on the right-hand side here, you can search for phrases or terms if you put them in inverted brackets. The same as searching on Google, really. And then you can put not things you don't want. The not operator does work on LinkedIn, but I can find it can be a little bit dodgy. It doesn't work super well, but it works a bit. These operators, by the way, they work on Google. And if you are looking for anything, by utilizing these, you will find much better search results, and you escape SEO because if you're searching for something really hyper specific. Recruiters are likely to spend less than 15 seconds if they're reading your full LinkedIn profile, and 15 seconds is generous. I can click through 100 profiles in less than an hour. We really don't spend that long looking at the top of your profile before deciding if we'll scroll down. And your LinkedIn profile isn't your CV. It doesn't matter if the same information is on both, that's fine, but you can have more fun with your LinkedIn profile, or you can exclude things if you don't want to be contacted about them. Like say you're in mining and you're like, I never want to work in pit mining again. You can just remove all of that terminology from your CV, from your LinkedIn profile. And then when recruiters are searching for pit mining, they won't find you. So you can remove anything you don't like. Like if you no longer work with Java, just remove it from your LinkedIn profile. All of that stuff kind of has to be on your CV. So your CV reflects your experience accurately, but your LinkedIn can reflect what you want now and what you want in the future. So live demo time. This is what I see on LinkedIn. I've made a little Wimdy folder, especially for you. On the top, you can see projects, jobs, campaigns, reports. Projects are these folders that I keep things in. Jobs is our job ads. Campaigns is a LinkedIn functionality we don't use. And reports, I can pull reports on like how successful are our InMails, how many job applications are we getting, the reports. We all love reports. So I'm going to scroll down kind of slowly here, but you can see that all of those different search functions are here. Just for the benefit of the privacy of our candidates, I've excluded anyone that we've ever spoken to, or tried to anyway. So here's our imaginary job that we're looking for. A DevOps engineer. If there's any actually listening to this, you're going to wildly disagree with what I say, but a DevOps engineer is involved with keeping servers and things that are on the internet online. If Twitter goes down, there is a DevOps engineer somewhere panicking. If you are having trouble logging on to Amazon, Amazon has probably hundreds of DevOps engineers. There's DevOps engineers in there somewhere freaking out. They use a bunch of different technologies. They just keep stuff online for you. So what I'm looking for is an individual contributor who's looking to step into a lead role. They absolutely need to have AWS and Kubernetes. Don't worry if you don't know what they are, they're just technologies. And they need to have worked on a product that has high traffic or scale. So something like Amazon or Twitter that has high numbers of users that are constantly hammering the server, because that's a very different job to a DevOps engineer who doesn't work on a high traffic project. And it'd be really good if they were able to code well in Python, but it's not like essential. If they have something else, or if they're not that good at coding, they can learn in the job. And for the actual company, it's a startup. The pay is like, it's all right, but it's not amazing. So anybody who's in a super well-paid company may not be interested. And they need to be within 2 hours time difference of Ireland. That's quite a common one for remote jobs in Ireland. You can have things that are remote within Europe. So they're okay with remote, but they want people in vaguely the same time zone. So that takes us out about as far east as maybe Ukraine. So in job titles, I've put in principal, and then I've put in misspelled principal because not everybody speaks perfect English, and that's a very common mistake. And I'm not going to reject somebody because of a slight grammatical error. And I've put in lead. I think what I'm going to add in as well, so I'm going to exclude anyone who's sort of at too high a level, because with sourcing, you make a number of passes. You start off with kind of the ideal best fit ever, and then you broaden it out if you're not finding what you want. So at the moment, I don't want to look at people who are already managers, because I'm making the assumption that they wouldn't want to step down. And because this job is hands-on, a lot of managers they're no longer hands-on, they're doing strategic managery things. And nobody wants to go back to coding if they haven't been doing it for a while. I've put in Europe. I've excluded Ireland. You can exclude countries. I've just excluded Ireland again, because we work so much in the Irish market to protect the privacy of our candidates. With this, you can also have open to relocate. So if I was looking for somebody to relocate, I can hit that and it's going to get me people who have entered themselves on LinkedIn that they're interested in relocating to an area. But right now I need somebody who's physically within that country. And down here, I have my Boolean. So I've got DevOps. If you're in any kind of a DevOps job, you will have that word on your profile. I've put in Kubernetes and I put in K8. That's just a shorthand within the industry for Kubernetes, AWS. And then I've put in a few words like load balancing or scale. And then I've put in payments or e-commerce because those are industries that are likely to have the type of person that I want. There's another product we use called LinkedIn Insights that we can pull like employee report, not employee reports, sorry, talent reports on companies. So I could type in Kubernetes and AWS and it'll give me a list of companies that use those technologies. And we often use that as part of our sourcing. And then I have years of experience. Years of experience are difficult because you could have somebody with 10 years experience, that's rubbish. And you could have somebody with 5 years experience, that's amazing. But realistically, I think if you were going to be stepping into a lead position and you have less than 5 years experience, it's going to suck for you. So we'll just keep it at 5 years. I can also search for how long they've been in their current company. That can be quite handy if you're working with visa restrictions because every country has their own thing going on with work permits, and you can just add in, in Ireland after 2 years working somewhere, you can get a work permit that allows you to work for anyone. So I'd put in 2 years there and that'll get me people who are just ready to move on to another company after getting their free work permit. I can add in company types. If I was looking for somebody from educational institution or somebody from nonprofit, I can do that. And in this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in company size, because I think if you're coming from a really big company, you're going to struggle in a startup because it's just going to be such a different vibe. And let's pretend for the sake of argument for this company that I've spoken to them and they've said they don't want to see somebody from giant companies because they've struggled with that before. And I have clicked away from hide previously viewed, just so that I can see some brand new, fresh candidates. So we'll go to search. So on the top here, you can see some spotlights. So I can look at people who have actively set their profile to open to work. So they've said, hello, I want a job. If you're looking for attention from recruiters, that's your first step, because we always, number one, go to the people who are open to work. It's a no-brainer. They've said they're looking for a job. I mean, that's just awesome. Active talent, I'll highlight over so you can see it. So somebody mentioned, I think it might have been Holly, that was being active on LinkedIn. I don't personally think posting a lot is super helpful. It's very industry dependent, and it's certainly no harm to put posts, but you don't need to. But if you're logging in and you've updated your profile, or you're answering emails, or you're doing like active things and on LinkedIn, you'll appear in this active talent pool. And it's like, they're not open to work, but they might be. They're on LinkedIn a lot, and you can see there they've just added work at companies that may be experiencing layoffs, which is weird, but interesting. Good for us, just weird. So if your company is experiencing layoffs, you'll appear on this part of it, even if you're not personally affected. And then on the right-hand side, you've got has company connections. That means they're connected to somebody within my company. So maybe I could say to my colleague, oh, I see you're connected to so-and-so. Do you know them? Do you know anything about them? Do they want to talk to me? Connected to talent brand means that they're following our page, or they've liked one of our updates or something like that. Applicants, pretty self-explanatory. And then there's internal applicants, which as a recruitment company wouldn't affect us. But if you're working in a massive company and you've got people intercompany transferring, it'll become relevant there. So let's say we're just looking at people open to work. I've got 53, which isn't bad for the level of specificity I'm looking for. So we'll have a look. So at the top here, AWS and DevOps evangelist. Yeah, I'm interested in scrolling down. Your job title, there's a lot of differing information and advice online. I think if you just say what you're doing, I mean, I'm interested in scrolling down because it says DevOps and AWS, and it came up in my search, so he must have a lot of the other skills I'm looking for. You see some people that have like, I help people to become their best selves or something on their title. I don't really like that because it doesn't tell me what they're doing. So scroll down a bit. So they've been in their current company for just over a year. They were in AWS before that. Amazon hires good people, so that stands to them. I'd be interested in people who have ever worked for Amazon. However, they were in South Africa. They're from India, so I'd worry about their work permission. However, I don't know anything about work permissions in the Netherlands. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I can look at what Eclectic does. So they're doing defense technology. 126 employees. I can have a look at their other employees as well, and I can see what their funding and stuff is like. We'll say we're cautiously interested in him. He doesn't have a lot of information there. So I don't know what he's been doing in Eclectic IQ, but because it's a defense company, they probably don't allow their employees to put a lot of information there. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'll save him to Pipeline. From Pipeline here, so I can message somebody directly. I can go, hello. Blah, 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 blah. I have templates that I use, and I tend to write for each role. I'll write kind of a template, kind of a middle blurb going, here's the skills you require, here's the salary, here's some other information, and then I'll kind of personalize it as I go along. Like, you know, I can see that I can't really tell what you're doing in your current company, but your previous experience interests me. Here's the job, blah, blah. And then I can change the stage here. So I can say I've contacted them. It automatically moves to replied when they reply. And then I can go, they're not interested. And then I can add it over here on the notes on the right-hand side, why they're not interested. I can say I've sent them a spec, and then you can see all the different bits there. Here is in the UK. So this is actually decent. You can see that they've been in a senior position in their current company, and you can see that they have implemented changes. So they've kind of done things that you'd expect a lead to do, in that they've initiated changes, and a startup would really want to see that, because they want somebody that's often a startup, if they're hiring somebody at this level, in a way, they need somebody to come in and tell them what to do, like to bring their knowledge and say, I'm really experienced, here's my advice. So the fact that they've done that is pretty good. My only worry would be that they're working in a blockchain company, and blockchain companies tend to pay really well. So I may not be able to afford him. And the UK for tech salaries can be very high. It can be very bad, but he's not in London, so we'll give him a go. If he was in London, I wouldn't message him because his salary is probably nuts. And I find that people whose salaries are much higher than what I'm offering tend to be really rude when they message you back about it. And it's like, why are you doing that to me, dude? I am not psychic. So this guy is on a contract, so they're no good to me. We don't want contractors. We want somebody who's working on he's looking for a permanent job. Yeah, look, this is looking good. They're leading a team. But you can see here, they've said interested in 100% remote work, B2B contracts. B2B means they're looking for business to business. It means they don't want to be involved with a recruitment agency. So we'll move on. So I'm not going to drag you through 53 profiles, but broadly what I look for is, I mean, it's not like an insane proposition. I'm looking for information on the profile that matches what I'm looking for in my job spec. So if you find that you're getting messages that are targeted against the kind of jobs that you want, have a look at your profile. And are you talking a lot about the things you don't want to do? This is your LinkedIn profile. You can just delete it and only have the things that you want to do. In a lot of ways, you're never, ever going to stop recruiters from sending you mistargeted messages, because a lot of recruiters do this. Boop. And they just message like 25 people at once, and they'll do that for 200 people. And they figure if 5 people get back that are reasonable, you're done. And they just go, well, look, 53 people came up in that search. They all have to be pretty on the ball. And that takes so much more less time than going through each profile one by one. So you can see how it's tempting, especially if you've got a lot of work on, you don't have a lot of time, you've got a manager and a client breathing down your neck, you're just going to go, ah. And some people are just super lazy. But we'll give people the benefit of the doubt. Every recruiter has done this. None of us are innocent. I try not to, but sometimes I just don't have the time and I panic. So if you're, my advice there is tilted a little bit towards if you're getting recruiters and you don't want them, but we'll try, if you're not getting recruiters and you do want them, to avoid everybody's privacy, I'll just go to my own profile to talk about this. It's not uncommon that I will get messages from recruiters offering me a job in DevOps because my profile will come up when they search for DevOps. That's a problem that I've decided to deal with for having those words on my profile, because my urge to have people look at my profile and decide they want to contact me for recruitment things is higher than my desire not to receive messages from recruiters offering me jobs in DevOps. You can play that the way you want. If you've got words on your profile that you're getting messages about, you can remove them. If you're not getting messages, start looking through job specs for jobs that you're interested in and add those keywords to your profile. If you have those technologies or skills, if you don't have them, don't add them. You'll just annoy people. You'll start getting messages for jobs you're interested but not qualified for, which is very upsetting for you because you'll have to start saying that to people, and that's not good for your self-confidence. But if you, and when you're looking at your own job, if there's any kind of buzzwords, I suppose, just start jotting them down and then you can incorporate them into your profile. Your LinkedIn profile is an expression of what you want to be doing. My LinkedIn profile is an expression of my desire to recruit DevOps people. I want people to read my profile and say, I want to talk to Rose about a lovely job in DevOps, or I want to talk to Rose about hiring lovely staff in DevOps. Yeah, get other people to read your profile as well and see what they pick up, because it's so hard to write down what you actually do. Like, I'm sure everyone who's written their CV has opened up a page and gone, oh no, what do I actually do with my life? What have I ever done? And as you go through your career, if you write down fun projects that you've worked on or things that you liked doing, just write them down in a document somewhere. And then when it comes time to update your LinkedIn and your CV, you can add that information in, because it's very, very hard to think of off this just immediately. I usually find my best kind of, for every kind of writing, ideas happen at like 2 o'clock in the morning when I can't sleep. I start going, ooh. So not that I ever get up and write those things down, but you know, it'd be a good idea if I did. If you're talking, if you're getting, when you do get messages from recruiters, like observe what they're messaging you about, and then you know that that's working. And if there are recruiters within your industry, ask them, just say, look, what can I do to improve my profile? Because they'll be working directly in your industry, in your sector, and they'll be able to offer really targeted advice. This is very vague advice, like write down keywords for things you want to do. That's not that specific. You might be sitting there thinking, Rose, I actually don't know what keywords to write. So, I mean, that's really just a whistle-stop tour. Recruiters, we're really not trying to make your life harder. We're not deliberately going out to ignore you. Like if you're sending job applications and you're not getting a response, look at the number of applicants that have gone in for that job. If there's a couple of hundred of them and it takes about 1 minute to review an application, recruiters may not have time to go through them all. And it sucks, but that's just how it is. You'll get a much better response if you directly email the recruiter or contact them directly on LinkedIn, because then you're putting yourself out there a little bit. And recruiters are always happy to talk to people. We're always happy to talk to candidates. And a good recruiter is always happy to talk to you, even if you're not directly placeable that moment, because one day you will be, or you might be tomorrow. They might get a role in tomorrow you're ideal for. So it's good to maintain friendly contact with the good recruiters. And if you find a good one, hold on to them, because wow. I have this slide up because the cat pictures on my profile are from Arna Miller. And genius artist. I have spent a lot of money on her art, and when I own a house, I think it'll be mostly wallpapered with that. I recommend you go there and buy just all of it. So thanks so much for listening to all of that. I hope I wasn't going too fast or too confusing. And if you ever want to ask me about recruitment things, you can contact me on rose@ninedots.io. You can go to our website there. We recruit internationally. So if you're looking for staff and you're globally anywhere, let me know. We've worked on all continents except Antarctica, particularly interested in getting Antarctica on the map. If you have any questions after this, or if you want me to look over your CV, I'm happy to do so.